So I picked up this John Deere 118 recently, pretty reasonably priced. It had a few issues with bagger and everything, but it did have a few issues. One being that the blade assembly was making a lot of racket and wasn't cutting right, and just generally wasn't working. So what I did was took the cover off. Once you get in there, you'll see this main pulley. It'll have a large 22-inch nut on it that you can get off pretty easily. Once you get that off, you take the 4 bolts out right there, and the whole piece will drop down through. And when it does, this is what it looks like. As you can see, there are no bearings left in this piece. It should not be doing that. There should be bearings down in there to keep that from happening. Obviously this is not going to be rebuildable, so I'm going to have to buy a new spindle there. This is very common in these John Deere L series, home series mowers, and a lot of people don't know really how to attack the problem, and will sell these mowers fairly reasonably priced with some issues. This is a pretty weak deck in general that John Deere put on these, and but that is the most common problem, is this bearing, either on this side or the other, going out. The 110s, the 118s, all these L series basically have the same problem. So it's a very easy home fix. Just a little bit of work and research and understanding will allow you to pick up pretty good little mowers for not much money. Once again, this is one of the things that tends to happen a lot on this particular type of mower with this particular deck, is these spindles go bad, and here's really why. You can see the old spindle, bad, ran out of grease and then toasted the bearings and it went bad. The new spindle that came in a kit I bought on Amazon came with these new Oregon spindles, and they actually have a greasable point, and so you'll be able to service this like a regular spindle on a trailer or whatever, and that'll be able to keep that greased well, and that spindle should last a lot longer. This is what came in the kit: 2 spindles, one for each side of the deck, 2 blades. I didn't get a new belt because this particular mower had a very new belt on it. So all you have to do is put the blade on the spindle, and then what we'll do is I will pick the deck up, move the spindle under the deck, push it up through there, and then put the 4 bolts down in it, put the top disc there on, and put the belt back around it, and it'll be ready to go. I did get the total rebuild kit. The other spindle's in really good shape, has no play in it, so I'm just going to keep the other spindle and blade just for extras for right now. I may go ahead and flip it out, switch it out in the coming few days, just so both blades are new and all that, but the blades that are on it are in really good shape, so I'm not really that worried about it cutting funny or anything like that. One thing I did notice is on these Oregon spindles, probably because they fit multiple tractors, is these holes are not tapped, whereas the holes in this one are. So these 4 bolts were what came out, and as you can see, that is a self-tapping bolt. You might be able to see if it'll focus. That's a self-tapping bolt. That spindle was probably not tapped originally. It was probably tapped with this bolt right here. So I do have a tap set, so I may just go ahead and tap those myself, or I may just run these bolts down into it. That's very soft metal in that new spindle, and this bolt should still tap its way in as long as you go in straight. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and kind of show you what it looks like, and then we will put it in there and hopefully crank it up and cut some grass here in a minute. Alright, so I've tapped 2 of these bolt holes, and they're very easy to tap. I actually just used the self-tapping screw to do it. All I did was just put it in there and start with a ratchet and screw it down, and it taps right in there. It's pretty soft metal, and these self-tapping screws are pretty hard. So I just did 2 of them because holding it in a vise for my hand or with a pair of pliers was a little challenging. So what I'm going to do is I just did 2 of them. I'm going to put it in the deck, and then I'll do the last 2. You can see how that has no taps. I'm going to do the last 2 after I get the 2 screws holding it all the way up to the deck. Be a lot easier. I can push down the deck and really and screw it in pretty quickly. All 4 screws are in now, and you can see how these self-tapping screws went right in there very easily. especially after I got these two in. These last two went in very easily. One thing to caution is to keep this nipple out to where you can get to it. Don't put it back here when you put this in, or it'll be difficult to grease in the meantime. So I'm going to put that piece on and the belt. All right, I put the disc on. The last thing to do would be to tighten down this bolt. Now, it is a big bolt, and I will be tightening it down, but what I want to do is just put it on hand tight and then check the engagement to make sure that the belt is going to work properly. And it is. So everything should be good. I'll tighten down that bolt, and that'll be the end of this repair. And there it is, final product. My wife's a happy camper because she gets to cut the grass, and I'm a happy camper because I don't have to work on it anymore. I will say one word of caution. Be careful if you order this kit, these Oregon ones, because this little grease fitting, this little Zerk fitting, the top of it is a little bit too big for just a little tiny grease gun, and two of them got caught, and no matter how hard I pulled, it would not come out. I pulled this one directly out, not turning it any direction or anything, straight out, and it broke the threads off. Like I said, it's real soft metal, so the threads, I just unscrewed the little piece that was left in there, and I put a new Zerk fitting in there, a good new Zerk fitting in there, and everything's fine. So that's the only issue I had with the whole repair. Whole thing, if I had it to do over, it would take, I don't know, 10-15 minutes max. So it's not nearly as daunting as what they would lead you to believe. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments, and I'll see y'all later.